The Footprints Conversation series features discussions and insights from accomplished workplace and marketplace leaders, and their experiences on key leadership issues that could be of value to professionals and businesspeople working for the Lord in their workplace and marketplace. We are back with His Excellency Moses. He has already given us great insights on the biblical leadership principles of 1. Concern and calling, 2. Commitment, 3. Character, and 4. Capacity from his own experiences. Please let's welcome His Excellency for the 5th biblical leadership principle.
Happy to be here again. The 5th principle is communication. Communication is the exchange of verbal and nonverbal information. I know when communication comes up, the audience may certainly ask a question about my stammering because in Exodus 4 and 6, one of the excuses I gave was that I was not eloquent, I was slow of speech, tongue, and a stammerer.
So, this is self-disclosure for you, Your Excellency.
Of course. Sometimes, when you acknowledge your defects, no one will use it against you. Then it's like, case closed. Let me say that there are many times that I actually thanked the Lord that I was a stammerer. Contrary to my expectation, the stammering became more of an asset than a liability for communication and the calling.
Can you give us some of your experience to back what you are saying?
With pleasure. First of all, if I was not having that speech impairment, I would have relied on eloquence and oratorical skills to confront Pharaoh. That would have been a disaster. Although Aaron was made my spokesperson, we used very little verbal communication. Like, let my people go. With my few words, the Lord helped us to use signs and wonders with the plagues. Those signs and wonders spoke volumes and in more compelling ways than words could.
This is insightful. If you are in the audience and you have any defect, please note, all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, as His Excellency's experience tells us. Please continue.
Take for instance when the Lord told us to strike the dust of the ground with the staff and it produced gnats or lice all over Egypt. Pharaoh and his magicians were swamped with lice in their heads and all over their bodies. The magicians tried to produce their own lice to make the situation worse and they couldn't. Do you know why they couldn't?
No, please tell us.
Because to create the lice, they must first create their own dust. No oratorical skills, no communique, no press release could communicate such a compelling message that they are out of luck. There was no argument. Just go find your own dust. Simple. So, if you are working for the Lord in your workplace, you don't always have to rely on verbal communication. Resorting to signs, wonders, and miraculous works of the Lord would communicate more powerful messages to your colleagues at work. You can't argue with signs and miracles.
Certainly, you can't argue with signs and miracles. Research shows that only 10% of communication is verbal, involving sound, voice speed, voice volume, speech, and words. So how did you manage your speech impairment?
So, my speech impairment helped me to focus on the 90% nonverbal communication. That were more critical and helpful when I was a judge and settling disputes between the Israelites. I sharpened my nonverbal communication skills for decoding gestures, postures, pitch and tone of voice, eye contact, facial expressions, and other emotions. As a judge, I was able to spot who is the liar, who's the offender, and who's the victim just by listening attentively and observing them. Stammering also causes longer speech response time, and this helped me a lot.
In what way did the longer speech response time help your communication?
Have you ever said something spontaneously that you later regretted and have to take it back? Especially when you were angry. For me, the stammering helped me a lot in this area. I guess you may have also read the argument between myself, my brother Aaron, and my sister Miriam in Numbers 12. Due to my stammering, I have to keep quiet for them to go on and on and on. And because I was silent, the Lord came to my defense. They were silenced by the Lord, and Miriam was stricken with leprosy. That day I learnt that, sometimes, the most powerful way to communicate is to be silent.
Audience, note that. Sometimes, the most powerful way to communicate is to be silent. Powerful. I have a question from the audience about this your Numbers 12 experience. The Lord said, although he usually speaks with prophets in visions and dreams, he speaks with you face to face, clearly and not in riddles. Since you had such close-up communication with the Lord, do you have any lessons you could share from those encounters?
Several. Where do I even start? I think you have already identified, as in your question, that the Lord uses vision and dreams to communicate. He also uses riddles, proverbs, parables, and symbols to communicate. As we noted above, he also uses wonders, signs, and miracles as communication tools. As a believer working for the Lord in your workplace, you could depend on the Lord to use these powerful communication tools in your workplace. One other key lesson I learnt was his preference for documentation in communication, writing down what he says for frequent reference. As I told you last week, I smashed the first tablets of the 10 Commandments. But he brought me back to the mountain with new sets of tablets to get everything written down again. This time, I determined I will not go to the mountain the third time.
That was a great lesson, Your Excellency. Audience, I don't know about you, but I have learnt a lot about the benefits of stammering in communication today. Contrary to being a speech impairment, we have learnt that it provides the opportunity 1. To rely on signs, wonders and miracles. 2. To sharpen non-verbal skills. 3. To listen and observe more. 4. To use the speech response lag time in a way to avoid saying something you may later regret. And 5. To use silence as one of the most powerful communication tools. We could all apply these benefits in our communication, even if we are not stammerers. Let's give it up to His Excellency.
For those who sent us messages of how you were blessed by the discussions in the video, God bless you for that. Our understanding from Hebrews 4 verse 2 is that you were blessed because you combined what you heard with faith. May we ask you to encourage those you pass on the videos to do the same. Let us encourage one another to apply these biblical leadership principles as we fulfill our callings at our workplace.